Well, I hope you can hear me, and thank you for coming back to another episode of BL Trails and Tales. And I appreciate you being here, and I hope that I hope you'll follow me and subscribe to the channel. I know I've got a bet with some family relatives that I couldn't make this thing go, you know, as big as I think I could make it go. But they all say I have good tales to tell, and so I'm going to do that. And I'm going to tell you about the time when I was 2.5 years old and I rode all by myself. And yeah, you say, you know, you're not going to believe that, but it's true. And we're going to explain that in a second. But I don't know, right now I want to know about how was your day? What did you do today? Did you make memories? Did you make adventures? Is it something that you enjoyed? I know I didn't. I don't know how to tell you this, but I was over here and I trimmed a horse. I had a horse that was real long, and I picked up in Texas. Actually, I went online and ended up buying 5 horses down there in Texas, and 5, 6 maybe. Anyway, I went down there and picked them up and brought them back. They're all treasures, every single one of them, except for the ones that aren't. But anyway, we'll get into that story some other day. But today I did trim one of those horses because I got to get him started. He's just a baby, and another one tomorrow morning that not so much a baby, but just got started really wrong, and needs some rehab, and I'm been blessed to be able to work with not only horses but people and dogs that maybe other people have had a struggle with, and they're not doing so well. So anyway, today I was trimming on that horse, and I got done, and it was a cool morning. Actually, it was nice, and I got him done, and it was not totally broke horses. They have a little bit of a struggle, and so my back's not as good as it once was. It actually when it once was, it wasn't even good. You know, I started having back problems, I think, probably just after I was born. I don't know, it wasn't much longer after that. Well, that one story about you know, my first wreck, I guess, getting stomped on, and I don't know if that was some of it or whatever, but I've kind of had chronic back pain off and on all the time. And if I stay in shape, if I do sit-ups and back strengtheners, and I stretch and whatnot, then I can stay in it. The pain isn't debilitating anyway. I can survive it, and that's kind of what I did here on that horse today. When I was trimming on him, I got done, and I was in good shape. I didn't hurt real bad. I didn't hurt any worse than when I woke up in the morning, actually, and so that was good. He pulled on me a little bit, and I've got a stand now, and I started using that probably about 10 years ago, and that helps a lot. And anyway, got him done, and then I got to thinking, you know, it said, gee, man, Christmas, you know, my oldest son said, you know, Dad, you're too young or too old to be riding bucket horses anymore. You know, you don't ride them like you used to. And I agreed with him. I said, you know, it's true, and I don't need to do that. And what also is true, that I probably don't need to be getting underneath them and trimming and shoeing them anymore. I mean, the good horses, the nice horses, the ones that will stand there and give you everything, then I can do that. It might take me a while because I'll take a rest. It might take me an hour and a half to put 4 shoes on, to trim them, to pull shoes off, trim them, and put 4 new ones on it. I take a break, it might take me a little bit to do that, you know, an hour and a half or something like that. But I can do it, and I enjoy it still. But anyway, today when I did that, and then I got back in the house, and it was like, oh my goodness sakes, I can't get that back feeling better. You know, not a thing's going to help it, and so uh, I've ended up here about an hour ago. I guess I took a 3 or 4 Advil, I guess, and self-medicate just a little bit. Anyway, we're going to tell you a story about when I was 2.5 years old. And you're going to, I can validate this with my brother because obviously he was the one that was there, my older brother. And anyway, we was up there, and I think I told this story about being up on Vincent's Ranch when I got in that wreck when I was 9. Well, we was up on that same ranch. We was up there towards the end of it, dang near to the blowout, I guess, with some neighbors. And gosh, now you say, how do you remember this, Bill, when you were 2.5 years old? Some stuff just stick in your memory, and you've got that too. I don't know what your earliest memory is, but this is mine, and it stayed with me immediately, and I guess forever since. But it's kind of weird how that works. You know, you can't remember a lot of things, and I can't remember where I put my phone down yesterday or 5 minutes ago probably. But anyway, we were up there on the desert. We took a ride with a bunch of friends, and no, I wasn't riding by myself. I was being, I don't know if I was being led. I can't remember that for sure. My brother probably elaborated on that, and that's why he's not here, because he elaborates on things, and sometimes that gets exaggerated. But anyway, we was up there on the desert, and sure enough, I was riding a donkey. We always had, well, we don't always, but we had donkeys for a long time. Had a lot of mules and a lot of horses, and this donkey's name was Honey Boy. Okay, and he was just, I mean, just gentle. I mean, just, you go out there and they would put me on him, you know, and I think lead me through the orchard anyway, so I didn't get drug off by the limbs, and then maybe just let me go because it really didn't matter. Honey Boy was just going to follow along with everybody else, just what Honey Boy the donkey did, you know, just plod, plod, plod. And he was good, so he took care of me up there on the desert, right? Well, we was with, gosh, I can't remember. There could have been 8 to 10 of us up there. All I remember is the Gallaghers were up there. I believe the 2 girls, the 2 boys, Joe, my mom and my dad. Dang it, I can't remember what else was up there. But what I do remember is that we were all together kind of in a bunch up there, and this I wasn't Grant, one of the girls was riding one of the horses, and they came by at a trot or whatnot. But anyway, right past my older brother Steve, and he was just going to be 6 years old, I guess. And he was riding by himself. He was, you know, I mean, shoot, by 6 years old, when we were growing up, that made you about a half a man, and by the time you were 10 or 12, you were a man. But anyway, he was riding his horse all by himself and getting along great, and this horse came by and kicked up. Well, it kicked him right in the leg, broke his leg, so down off he went, you know, and I kind of remember some of that, the commotion that was going on, because I remember, you know, my parents and the other people saying, oh geez, you know, my goodness, he broke his leg, you know, and it's bad, and Steve's crying, of course, you got a broke leg. And so he went, somebody went back down the road and went to a neighbor's house and got a hold of them. They came up with their station wagon up that road onto that ranch, picked Steve up and everybody else, and they went back down to the house and ended up taking Steve to the doctors, right? So they took him into Doc Bliss. Took him into Doc Bliss, got his leg set, right? So he got a cast, you know, he's all back together, and they're home, and they are in the house there, and you know, it's been a little while. It takes a little while to get doctored up and well, first to get in town, then get doctored up, and then get back to the house, and Steve's got himself an Etch-a-Sketch type deal. You know, I don't know who got him that, but it was right away. So he could lay in bed with his leg up in a cast and do his Etch-a-Sketch. You know, he's 6 years old. He didn't have no iPad. He didn't have some kind of video game to play. And so, and he couldn't get off and play Rock'em Sock'em Robots or nothing. So anyway, they had the Etch-a-Sketch, you know, and I don't know if you know what those are. Old people know what those are. But it was just a chalk line type charcoal deal, and you drew lines on it with two little knobs, so you could make, you know, designs. Anyway, he was doing that, and that's when at some point they noticed I was not there, and it was I guess it was a little different for them. I know it was for me. Me, honestly, I tell you, I had no fear in me. I was 2.5 years, a little over 2.5 years old, and everybody just kind of left me up there on the desert, and I remember that. And they were gone. People were all gone, and so I just kind of did my little kicky little deal on Honey Boy, and he started off towards the house, you know, down the road. Well, it was, gosh, I don't know how long it was. I mean, it was a long time you go to the doctor's office, get your leg set, get a cast on it, get back to the house. So I was gone quite a little while there in the evening, and I don't remember much of the ride back down there. I don't. I do remember coming back down through the peach orchard. We had a peach orchard coming down through to the house, and I do remember ducking because Honey Boy, he was a donkey, and he would like to just rub you off underneath a low-lying limb if he could. And I do remember him trying to, I think I do, because he did that, you know, several other times later when I was older, and there was not a thing you could do about it. I mean, you couldn't yard him over or anything like that. So it was a little interesting. But anyway, what I do remember is I was getting down into the house and actually rode right into the barn. And this is so vivid to me, and it's always been vivid to me for ever since it happened. I got into the barn, and I remembered I rode right into the barn, and we had stalls and sanctions in there. Dad did, and so Honey Boy took me right in there, and so I knew I needed to get off, and that was no problem because I grabbed the saddle horn, you know, and I don't know how big he was. He wasn't 14 hands, I'm sure, but I slid off of him and down on the ground. What I do remember emphatically is that I knew I needed to take that saddle off. I needed to take the saddle off, you know, and put the animal away. I knew that. I was ingrained in me. It was trained. Is what you did, and so I knew that, but I couldn't do it. You know, I mean, he was 14 hands, so what in the world? He's up here 14 hands or something like that, but I'm down here like this, and there's no way. I'm 2.5 years old. I didn't have the strength or knowledge probably to get that uncinched, to get that saddle off, but I knew I needed to. So okay, I can't get it done. I remember that. I remember walking out of the barn and walking towards the house because I needed to go get somebody to get some help to get that saddle off of Honey Boy. Well, as I was about halfway across the driveway, bang! Here opens up the door. We had, well, it was summertime, and so you didn't have a solid door. You had a screen door. You know, the solid door was open, so you could get air in there. We didn't have no air conditioning, so you had air movement. Anyway, the screen door was there. Boom! Screen door comes slamming open, and here comes Dad and Grandpa. I mean, they're just booking it. They're like racehorses. I can remember them in the gravel. I mean, gravel kicking up underneath their feet as they come running out there, you know, because they just realized after at least 3 hours, I wasn't there. And they left me up on the desert. And anyway, I was walking down, I was getting in about halfway down the driveway between the barn and the house there. And when they came out, and I, pardon my French, but this is how I remember it, but I remember Dad yelling at me. He said, "Where the hell have you been?" You know, it's like, well, dang, you know, I was up there riding the Honey Boy. Where you guys been? You know, I didn't say that. I'd have got butt whipped for doing something like that, but I didn't talk back at all. But anyway, he asked where you been, and I don't ever recall saying anything after that. All I remember is my dad and Grandpa come running out that swing door, just banging open. And here they came, you know, in a run, and I'm just like, oh no, I'm probably in trouble, you know. And sure enough, I kind of sort of was, because I wasn't there. But anyway, that's my story at 2.5 years old, and yeah, my older brother will corroborate on that. I mean, he knows it. He was in there with his broke leg and his etch-a-sketch, you know, when I came into the house, and I guess I was in a little trouble, but probably not for long. It was just something that happened. So anyway, that's my story. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you keep following. We got lots of tales, and some of them are true. No, I mean, they're all true. If they're not true, I will give you they're not, that's probably not an actual story at the end. You know, it's kind of like when I was with John Wayne. I mean, there we were up Escalante Canyon, you know, and me and John Wayne, we got up there, and there was a whole bunch of Arapaho after us, right? Well, we got up in there, we were trying to find shelter because the whole Cheyenne Nation was coming in there after us. I mean, we was getting a lot of hurt, we was in trouble. And so we got up there, we got hunkered down, and we started firing and shooting them pretty quick, you know. All them Apaches and stuff, they just closed in on us, and all I remember is John Wayne, he filled his hands. I mean, he had 2 pistols going, and he was going at them, and the enemy was falling right and left, and he stuffed them back in when he ran out of his 6 shooters. He pulled up that rifle of his, and then he started shooting. Well, he took off. He went right straight through all those Pawnee. I mean, straight through them. Never got touched. And you ask what happened to me? Well, I wasn't John Wayne. I got killed, of course. You have a good day. You come visit us. Bye.